The Constitution was meant to be a covenant among the living, but we've turned it into scripture for the dead. We began with reason, but we retell it as revelation. And somewhere along the way, we've replaced conversation with ritual. In the 1830s, a young prophet named Joseph Smith claimed he spoke with God. He wrote the conversations down, line by line, and called it Doctrine and Covenants. The revelations were urgent, intimate, messy. God weighed in on church structure, lost pages, debts, disputes, even the tension in a marriage. One began with revelation, the other with reason, though we now pretend it descended from heaven. The Constitution came from debate, compromise, exhaustion, and fear of chaos. Human voices in a hot room, inventing a future they knew they wouldn't see. Two texts, two Americas, both promising a world remade through words, but by very different hands. Revelation and amendment are both experiments in living authority. One insists God can still speak. The other insists we can still argue. For Joseph Smith, revelation meant updating scripture in real time. For Madison, Franklin, and the others, amendment meant updating a nation over generations. Both systems were built to evolve, to bend, stretch, and respond. Both required faith in a living voice. But every living system faces the same danger: silence. When Joseph Smith died, revelation slowed. Eventually, it stopped. The Constitution followed a similar arc. Amendments came in bursts: the Bill of Rights, Reconstruction, the Progressive Wave, and then the nation fell quiet. Reverence replaced revision. We began to canonize what was meant to evolve. The saints said, "The heavens are sealed." Patriots said, "The Constitution is perfect." Both forgot the original premise, that life requires change. Originalism reads like scripture. We parse the founder's intent the way theologians parse divine will. Elections become sacraments. Inaugurations become liturgy. Civic debate becomes a ritual recitation of inherited doctrine. Dogma is safer than democracy. Ritual is easier than responsibility. And yet, both prophets and patriots once believed in a living covenant. That authority should speak to the present, not the past. A document of the people is meant to grow. A revelation is meant to evolve. To freeze either is to worship the words instead of the life they promise. Democracy, like revelation, requires courage. The courage to speak, to amend, to act. The covenant is not sacred because they wrote it. It's sacred because we still can. Maybe it's time to reclaim it. Not as scripture, but as conversation. Not as dogma, but as responsibility. The living voice is always one generation away from silence, but it survives in those who question, revise, and act. And every generation must choose: will we worship the words or live the promise?